Welcome to Things You Don't Know. Today, we're talking about a time when bicycles were not seen as harmless exercise or simple transportation. In the late 19th century, many people saw them as risky, disruptive, and even morally suspicious. That probably sounds rather strange to you now. Today, a bicycle is usually seen as ordinary. Children ride them. Adults use them for exercise, commuting, racing, or recreation. But when bicycles became widely popular in the 1890s, they changed how people moved through the world.
And that change created anxiety. Some of it was about accidents and crowded streets. Some of it was about health. Some of it was about young people and social romantic behavior. And some of it was about women becoming more independent.
And one of the strangest examples was the fear of bicycle face. Doctors and commentators warned that too much cycling could change riders' appearance.
Jeez, that just sounds so weird.
It
So
does.
yeah. So this episode is about bicycles, but also about technology, public space, medical misinformation, clothing, transportation, and moral panic.
Dr. Weaver, let's start off with the bicycle itself because the machine had to change before the panic really took off.
Yeah, early bicycles were not like the bicycles most people know today. In the 1870s and 1880s, one of the best known designs was the high wheel bicycle, often called the penny farthing. It had a huge front wheel and a much smaller rear wheel.
Those look quite impressive, but they also look dangerous
Oh,
too.
golly gee, Dana, they sure were, Chandler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the rider sat high above the ground. If the front wheel struck a stone, rut, or hole, the rider could be thrown forward. Roads were pretty rough. Helmets were not standard, and the high wheel bicycle was mainly used by men with money, leisure time, and a tolerance for risk.
Then came the safety bicycle. By the 1890s, bicycles with two similar size wheels, chain drives, and air filled rubber tires became more common. That basic design is much closer to the bicycle we recognize today.
So the safety bicycle made riding easier, safer, and more practical.
Exactly. It lowered the rider, improved balance, and made cycling possible for a wider public. This is the period when the bicycle becomes a mass transportation and a recreation phenomenon.
Yeah, the design of bicycle frames also mattered. The standard diamond frame with a high top bar running from the seat area towards the handlebars became common on many men's bicycles because it was strong and efficient.
But that high middle bar could be a problem for riders wearing long skirts or heavy clothing.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Chandler. That the change helped lead to step through or drop frame designs where the middle bar was lowered or removed. Those frames were often marketed to women, but the practical point was broader. The bicycle had to adapt to real riders, real clothing, and real social expectations.
And once the bicycle became easier to ride, more people used it. Workers used it to travel farther. Young people used it for recreation. Rural riders used it to reach nearby towns. Middle class riders used it for both leisure and exercise.
And before the automobile became dominant, it was personal transportation.
Yeah, you're right about that, Chandler. Um, that is one reason it produced so much reaction. The bicycle gave ordinary people a way to move farther and faster without needing a horse, a carriage, a train ticket, or streetcar.
And that change happened quickly. Streets that had been built around pedestrians, wagons, horses, and streetcars now had bicycles moving through them. That created real questions about speed, road rules, safety, and personal responsibility.
So some of the concern was practical.
Yes, riders could be reckless, roads were uneven, horses could be startled. Pedestrians complained about cyclists moving too fast. Cities and towns had to figure out how bicycles fit into the public space.
But the panic went beyond safety. Some critics treated the bicycle as a threat to discipline, manners, health, and social order.
Now, Dr. Weaver, that brings us to bicycle face.
Oh, Lord, what in the world? The phrase referred to a supposedly unhealthy facial expression caused by bicycle riding, Chandler. Critics described it as a strained, anxious, fixed look. Some said the rider's eyes would bulge or stare. Others described a clenched jaw, tight lips, a wrinkled forehead, flushed skin, or an exhausted appearance.
The explanation was usually that the rider had to concentrate too hard, grip the handlebars too tightly, stare at the road, and balance at speed. The effort was said to create a nervous strain that would show in the face.
So, bicycle face was basically the idea that riding would leave someone looking tense, worn out, or even unattractive.
Exactly. It was not a real medical diagnosis. It was a mixture of ordinary fatigue, exaggerated health warnings, and social criticism dressed up as medical concern.
Some people also warned about other supposed cycling problems, including a bicycle back, bicycle hand, and bicycle foot. These claims often took real possibilities, like soreness or overuse, and turned them into broad warnings against the very activity itself.
And women were targeted and often singled out in these warnings.
Yes, Chandler, they were. Many doctors and commentators falsely assumed women were more physically delicate and more vulnerable to harm from any kind of exercise. Cycling was said by some critics to threaten women's beauty, their health, their manners, and their family duties. What a Victorian phrase that is.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but it is important not to reduce the whole bicycle story to women alone. Men were also warned about injuries, nervous strain, dangerous speed, and irresponsible behavior. The bicycle raised larger questions about how modern life was changing.
Still, women's cycling did become a major public issue.
Yes, because the bicycle gave women more independent mobility, heaven forbid. A woman with a bicycle could travel without waiting for a male escort relative, a hired carriage, or public transportation. That was a meaningful change in a society where women's movement was often more restricted.
Yes, and the bicycle also affected clothing. Long skirts could catch in wheels or chains. Tight corsets and heavy layers made riding harder. Practical cycling clothing, including divided skirts and bloomers, became part of dress reform.
To us, that may not seem so dramatic, but at the time, clothing carried social meaning. Women wearing garments that looked more like trousers could be criticized as unfeminine or even rebellious.
So the bicycle became connected to the so called New Woman, a late 19th century image of changing women who were more educated, public, active, more independent, and heaven forbid wanted to vote.
Oh man, that connection made some people uncomfortable. It also made the bicycle powerful as a symbol. It was not just an idea about independence. It was a machine that let people experience independence directly, right, Chandler?
That's exactly right, Dr. Weaver. And speaking of independence, I want to get into something now that interests me. Were tandem bicycles, were they part of this craze too?
Briefly, Chandler, yes, tandem bicycles built for two riders became an important part of the cycling culture. They were used by couples, by friends, sometimes by families. They also appeared in advertising and popular images because they suggested sociability and novelty. They were never as important as the standard single rider bicycle, but they show how quickly cycling became part of leisure and social life.
Chandler, you had mentioned to me that you have actually ridden on a tandem bicycle. Is that correct? Maybe you can just briefly say something about that.
Yes, that is correct. I have ridden on a tandem bicycle actually plenty of times. Uh, I have ridden on a tandem bicycle plenty of times, and I really enjoy it. My uncle and I, well, the first time I did it, it was several family members and I. We biked down the Creeper Trail, 17 miles, and it was a fun experience. And my uncle and I have done it a couple times since then.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a cool experience too, Dr. Weaver. Hopefully
Yeah,
you'll get the experience someday.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bicycles also affected business and manufacturing. The industry required metal frames, chains, gears, bearings, rubber tires, and precision parts. Those skills later mattered in motorcycles, automobiles, and even early aviation.
Yeah, so the bicycle helped prepare the way for later transportation technology.
Well said. It was part of the technological chain that reshaped modern mobility.
Cyclists also help push for better roads. Before automobiles dominated road planning, bicycle groups campaigned for smoother and more reliable roads. The National Good Roads movement was strongly connected to cycling, and we forget the Wright brothers, the creator of the airplane, were originally bicycle mechanics.
Hmm.
Wow, Dr. Dineen, that is quite interesting because many people assume that better roads came only because of cars. That's not the case.
Cars certainly accelerated the process, but cyclists had already made road improvement a national public issue.
Yeah, the press helped spread both enthusiasm and panic. Newspapers and magazines reported cycling clubs, races, injuries, fashion disputes, medical warnings, even if they were false, and arguments about behavior in the streets.
It sounds to me like bicycles became a public debate because they touched so many parts of daily life.
Yes, exactly. Transportation, health, clothing, gender expectations, leisure, manufacturing, advertising, road design, and public safety, all of those combined together. They came together to create this kind of frenzy.
As in so many areas, that's what moral panics do. They turn one visible change into a symbol of many anxieties. The bicycle became a way to argue about modern life.
But the panic didn't stop the bicycle from becoming normal.
No.
No, over time, more people rode. The design improved, roads improved, rules developed. Ironically, very conservative physician John Harvey Kellogg, the vegetarian fanatic, he advocated bicycle riding even for women as a good source of exercise, so the shock became familiar.
And once people experienced practical mobility, it was hard to convince them to give it up. A bicycle could make work, errands, visiting, exercise, and recreation so much easier.
The bicycle face warning also faded because it became obvious that riding the bicycle did not ruin people's faces. What foolishness, right?
Well, yeah, people might get tired. They might get sunburned, sore, or injured if they rode carelessly or too long. But bicycle face was not a disease. It was a cultural fear presented as a medical warning.
That distinction matters, Dr. Weaver. New technologies can create real problems, but fear needs evidence, calm, and proportion.
And Dr. Dineen, the same pattern has appeared again and again. Automobiles, movies, radio, television, music, video games, smartphones, and social media have all been accused of damaging minds, bodies, morals, or society.
Sometimes the concerns are partly legitimate. hmm But history reminds us to ask careful questions. What is the actual evidence? Who benefits from the warning? Is the concern about safety, or is it really about control?
By the early 20th century, the automobile replaced the bicycle as the dominant symbol of modern transportation, but thankfully the bicycle never disappeared.
It remained useful because it was simple, affordable, efficient, and adaptable.
And today, bicycles still matter for transportation, exercise, recreation, environmental planning, and urban design, too.
As we said, the late 19th century bicycle panic shows how a simple machine can reveal deeper tensions in society.
People feared bicycle face, reckless riders, changing clothing, independent movement, and crowded streets. But what they were really facing was a transportation revolution.
Just a brief note here that it's fascinating to me that the clothing designs have created such an uproar. I remember as a undergraduate, there was a whole thing about the women wearing jeans or pants, long pants, to the cafeteria to eat. And actually, we created quite an uproar about that at the time. We had a time when we said, okay, at exactly 12:05 lunchtime when it was being served in the cafeteria, everyone takes their plates and turns them upside down on the table, gets up and walks out.
Wow, a boycott.
Mm.
Yeah. And the administration didn't like that very much, but thankfully we had a president who was aware and interested in cooperation and things, and so the rule was suddenly changed. Anyhow,
I know in the girls' school my mother went to college to in Virginia,
yep,
her freshman year, absolutely no pants except in the dorms, privately, never in class or public situations. By sophomore year, it changed.
Well, as for your situation, Dr. Weaver, I think the changes kind of remained because when I was at Emory, things were still as good as you left them, I must say.
yeah, and now they allow men and women too to wear shorts even in the cafeteria. Imagine
Yes,
that.
they do.
Yes. So, anyhow, for things you don't know, I'm Dr. Weaver, and for Dr. Dineen and Chandler Foster, I thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, guys. Leave a comment, subscribe, and come back soon, folks.